Hey guys, it is Marco Nicolini with Under the Loupe, and today we're going to present you guys an assortment of watches that have come in for you guys to see and for us to talk about. So let's get started. The very first watch on my desk today is the 126720 VTNR, or aka the Lefty, the Sprite, or in some cases the Joker. Very interesting watch because every time I open the box, first thing I notice is the crown is on the wrong side for what I'm used to, but in this case it is actually on the right side. So what we have here is a Jubilee Sprite. I like going with the name Sprite. It seems like more people are familiar with that name, and we're gonna dive right in. So quick brief history, believe it or not, this is Rolex's second time introducing a left-handed GMT. The very first time was actually with the reference 6542. AKA, I don't know if I can say this, but the nickname for that watch is Pussy Galore. So it is true. It's funny. You might laugh, but it is what it is. If you guys look up the original 6542 Lefty, actually, so it was a left-handed watch, but it still retained the Cyclops and the date on the right side of the watch, as opposed to now they moved it to the left side of the watch, which gives it a very interesting look. A lot of people hate it. A lot of people love it. It's a very love-hate relationship. I'm going to look this over to make sure if it has been polished or if it has not been polished, so we can go right into it. So the only thing I'm curious about with the Sprite is, will Rolex quickly discontinue this watch simply because it has been quickly discontinued in the past, or will this be a new running model for the continuing production of this model, this reference number? So I'm curious about what's going to happen there. Quick glance at the watch. It looks like it has definitely been refinished in the past. Doesn't look like it's been aggressively refinished, but it does look good. It's very acceptable quality work. I don't see any signs that they ran over the high polish or the high polish ran into the satin finish, which is something I commonly see with poorly refinished watches. And I have a lot of people ask me the same question, and that is it good to repolish a watch? And the answer is yes, depending on who's doing the work. So it really just comes down to quality in that situation, because there's a bad stigma out there right now that, hey, refinishing a watch is just terrible. Doesn't matter what watch it is. It's just the worst thing on God's green earth. And the fact of the matter is it's not. It's really depending on who does it. And thankfully here at Grand Caliber, we do have a very, very good polishing guy who is just phenomenal, takes his time, he does it right. I've never had an issue with his polishing. In fact, a lot of the times these watches come back, they look brand new again, just the way he's very detail oriented, so he knows what he's doing. So that's good to have on hand versus other guys who work too fast. You can kind of see the sloppiness, and if they don't use the right grain or so on with the polishing wheels, that's when you gotta get that polished look where it doesn't look like the original, the original finish the watch came with. So that's the idea. A good polish should replicate the original finish the watch was born with and not look as if it's a third party. It's almost like wrapping a car versus high polishing your already existing paint. And let me just show you guys real quick what is the difference. So if you check these pictures out right here, this is a really good indication of before and after of what a good polishing looks like. So you can see that the satin finish is properly added back onto the watch in the correct way that Rolex would have done it. And you can also see the high finish is very smooth and even, where it doesn't look too wavy. Because what happens 9 out of 10 times when you have a guy who doesn't know what he's doing, the high finished areas will actually become wavy or distorted, and it typically doesn't make for a good look in the end. And typically the watch is compromised at this point because it's going to be very difficult to get the watch back to that factory look once that has been compromised. So I always do this. I put these Sprites in the other way around where the crown's facing right. So it ends up confusing me. But no, I have to remember, green bezel, crown goes on the left. All right, so the very next watch on the desk is a Hulk 116610 LV, discontinued in 2020. It's kind of fun if you find these with the new green card because they're ultra rare. This is a 2018. I think this watch was brought in consignment. It's definitely been refinished at one point in its life, but otherwise it looks really good. Don't see any issues. It looks like they used the correct polishing wheel. Definitely needs a little bit of a light touch up, nothing major. You can just see a lot of hairlines throughout the watch, I don't see any dings or dents, which would, pose an issue. As you guys know, the 116610 LV was replaced by the 126610 LV, aka Starbucks. Let me know in the comment section below which one you prefer. I personally prefer the Hulk. I think it's a much better looking watch, but the Starbucks is a little bit more friendly to wear with just about anything because it has the black dial, which kind of lets it kind of bleed through with any kind of suit or any kind of attire, whereas this kind of has an aggressive green appearance, which really kind of in my opinion, overwhelms a lot of attire if you try to wear this, but hey, to each his own. I guess if you dress according for the watch, then you'll be okay. Current market value for these watches are actually holding up pretty strong. Right now in the marketplace, I see the 2018s trading low 20s, 21.5 to 22,000. If you happen to have one with the new green style card 2020, those are fetching pretty good money. You can actually retail those for around 26 to 27. I have seen them as high as $30,000 being fully stickered, brand new green card. I mean, that is the ultimate version of the Hulk that you could have. The least version you could have would probably be, obviously, a naked one, which you can buy for roughly around 16 to 18,000. Now, the only interesting aspect I can tell you about Hulks that you'll find a difference in is the G serial. The G serial Hulks, the very first ones, 2010 Hulk, that's going to have a slightly different colored bezel than the rest of the production line, which is something interesting. I wish we had a G serial to show you, but we don't. So you'll have to go online and kind of read more about that. It's a very interesting thing that they just, introduced the watch in 1 year and then changed the bezel for good. Before we move on, we're going to do a quick wrist check. And today I'm wearing a very interesting watch to which you have to look a little closer. If you guys have seen Talking Watches with John Mayer, you might recognize this piece. This is a 5164A. But if you look a little closer, as John Mayer says, you'll notice the Tiffany & Co. stamp. This is a very, very, very sick watch to have and enjoy. Absolutely love wearing this watch. It's very, very hard to find, apparently. I mean, I've seen a lot of 5167s. I've seen a lot of 5711s Tiffany stamp, but you rarely see the 5164 Tiffany stamped. I think it just, especially on the strap that I threw it on, I think it looks amazing. I'm personally not a big fan of rubber straps. I think, for me personally, these suede straps make the watch wears like butter. It's amazing, feels good on the wrist, kind of just disappears in a sense. Once it's on the wrist, it's hard to notice it being there, but I think the rubber kind of brings out sweat and a little bit more grit. Very next watch. This is a Breitling Philippe. I jokingly call it a Breitling Philippe, but if you guys are familiar with Breitling, this watch very much looks like a 5270 perpetual calendar, though this one is not a perpetual calendar. In fact, it is a annual calendar chronograph. But as you guys know, these watches have famously came out to, I guess, Breitling released a lot of these watches that look exactly like Patek's. I'm not sure what's going on there. They're very, very interesting. So the features that this watch performs is the day, date, month, and it does a chronograph feature, as well as it has a tachometer as well installed with a clear back. It's a good looking watch, but to me, unfortunately, I'd have to say this watch very much rips off Patek Philippe, which is just odd in a sense of marketing, why you'd want to create a watch that looks exactly like another brand's watch that is a very high six-figure piece versus, a low teens watch. Really resembles a 5270. It just really looks like a 5270 Salmon. If you look at the two compared side by side, in fact, I'm sure if you wear this watch, people are going to mistake this for a Patek before they look closer and realize it's a Breitling. So as far as finish and overall construction of the watch, it obviously doesnn't compare to Patek Philippe's, finish and detail, but I mean, set aside from that, this watch looks very similar to a Patek. It's a very good looking watch. I mean, it does look nice. I think it looks great for the money. The movement in the back looks really good. It looks like the watch is worn with no signs of refinishing. In a similar fashion, it does use a stylus like Patek, so you do have to have a stylus to operate the calendar features. And of course, you have the chrono buttons that are very similar design to Patek Philippe. It looks like it could use a little bit of refinishing just simply because it's got some heavy scratching along the lugs and so forth. No issues with the dial. So as you guys seen, this is the Breitling Datura, or to me, it's a Breitling Philippe, whatever you want to call it. But interestingly enough, very much looks like a 5270. Looks like we got a sold order. 126600 red letter Sea-Dweller. I do have to say, I do love Rolex's modern iteration of their matte dials, because this dial is actually more matte than it is glossy. It still has some gloss to it, but there's a matte undertone, which is just really cool looking. So they do kind of bring back that vintage feel with that modern vibe. Don't see any signs of refinish. It looks pretty good. Rolex, interestingly enough, put the Cyclops back on the Sea-Dwellers, which in my opinion, I wish they didn't. I think this watch would look fantastic without a Cyclops. Cyclops on the Sea-Dweller, being a rugged watch, I feel like people who wear these type of watches are going to be more hands-on in their lives. So this watch is going to just probably collect a little bit more dirt and dust than usual. And one place I always notice dirt and dust is around the Cyclops, especially on, for whatever reason, Sea-Dwellers, these specific Sea-Dwellers. So if you guys are a Sea-Dweller fan and you want something with some rarity, I would always recommend people go look for the 116600 or the SD4K, which does not have a Cyclops and is also ceramic bezel. And they only made the watch for a very, very short period of time. And you can find those roughly in the price point of 13 to 16,000 in today's market, depending on specs. Maybe a little higher if it's still new or or still in perfect condition. This watch, it's a cool watch and all, but I would prefer personally to go with the older reference just because of the rarity. I mean, obviously this watch is still in production to this day, and market price for these right now they're typically trading around 14 to 16,000 as well. The very next watch I have to authenticate, it's a very, very interesting watch. As you can see here, it's got a lid or a cover, a dial cover, and this is an 851 Luminor Sealand with the hand-engraved falcon cover. It's a falcon in the desert. This is a very symbolic watch to the Middle Eastern culture. It's very unique in a sense that when you have this thing closed, you really can't even see the time or anything. You just see this falcon looking back at you, but you can pop it open. And it actually has a little mirror. It's like a perfect little mirror that you can look into, and you can just look around and see. Very highly reflective. One thing I just can't get over is seeing a Panerai 1950 case with a very flat crystal. To me, that's just very odd looking. It almost throws you off in a sense because it doesn't have that famous distortion of the dials that you kind of see with those domed crystals. It came in, and it's a very special watch indeed. I mean, it's a very, very limited watch. There's only 35 units ever made with this watch. It comes with a P9000 movement, which is Panerai's true workhorse of a movement found across many 1950 cases and utilized in many different model numbers. So it's a really, really neat watch. I'm not sure if I'm a lover or hater of this watch yet, but it's quite interesting to say the least. I don't think I've ever worn a watch where if I look down, I didn't see the time right away. It's almost very much like a pocket watch. You just have to kind of really be engaging with it when you wear it. I think market price right now for this watch is probably going to be in the low 20s. Interesting thing about the 851 is they were released April 20th of 2016 at the Kuwait Boutique, where there was only 35 of these ever made. It's not 35 per year, it is 35 period, where each one of these has a hand engraved, I guess it is a dial cover per se, but each one of these is hand engraved, and I looked a few up online just to check, and it looks like indeed, yeah, each one has a little bit of variation. So one bird does not look like the next bird. Even the little patterns are slightly different. So it's really, really cool. This watch has a lot of significant meaning to the United Emirates, as being that this bird symbolizes a lot of things such as prosperity and so forth. Very, very cool watch. I'd have to say, if you're interested in finding one, there's only one other one in the world that is in the UK for sale. This watch is probably the only one in the United States that's for sale at the moment. And right now we'll be asking, around $21,000 to $22,000. So once it gets on the website and finalized, be sure to check it out if this is something that interests you. Okay, so the very next watch, it's quite a sight to behold. It is the Omega Alaska Project. This is very, very much a tool more than a watch. It's very rare that I'll actually see a watch and I'll say, yeah, that needs to be in a toolbox more than a watch box. They designed this watch to withstand some extreme temperatures. As it even reads here, it says on this casing, this is a outer space extreme temperature instrument. So it's really designed to take the punches in outer space or in extreme cold situations or even in extreme heat situations. So as you can see, it's just fully encased into this deal, which still allows you to use the pushers, but you can't use the crown, which is one thing I guess they didn't really think of, but I guess if you set it, then you're good to go. Bleach white dial is one thing you'll notice right away about this watch, and that is to be very reflective. Again, that's so it can reflect back the light that you'll encounter in space. So I guess these will pick up popularity when SpaceX starts their tourism. So when we go up to space, we can take our Alaska Project Omega Speedmasters with us. So it's also a very limited watch. This watch was released in 2008, and they were only made in 2008. So if you see one available, it is going to be a 2008 model. But again, very interesting watch as it comes apart. I'll try to gently take this apart. As you can see, that comes apart in two parts, and to reveal the Speedmaster design, closed back, manual wind. Very pretty watch. I think this is, I personally would say this dial being bleach white like this is one of my favorites. It almost gives you the Snoopy vibes as the but it's not. So you can actually fit this watch on the metal bracelet, and when it's on the metal bracelet, I will have to say it will not work with this. This only works on the strap. So very, very interesting watch, and it's a very pricey watch, not being a Snoopy. Market price for these right now are anywhere between $22,000 to $25,000. That is a lot of money for a Speedmaster, but at the end of the day, you get a very unique Speedmaster. I was looping this watch out, and I noticed one thing. If you take a look at the very, very center of this dial, you'll actually notice that it has an impression of the Omega logo, which kind of gives you that Rolex LEC laser edge crown vibe, but it's a solid piece, so it's almost as if it was pressed into the crystal of some sort, but it's right there. You do get Luminova with the dial. It does glow blue, but it's not very strong. This is the Alaska project in its full crazy form. I mean, this is just absolutely insane. This is really, really a quirky watch, to say the least, but you can normalize it by simply taking this off, reducing it to the head only, and putting this bracelet on, which would make it for a really nice Speedmaster, just a normal watch to wear with a very, very white dial. Probably would get mistaken for a Snoopy. I do like the fact that the chrono hands look like the bottom of the space shuttle, so that's really, really cool. This is a very unique watch. It is for sale on our website, so give it a look, and if you're interested, reach out. We'll definitely be happy to sell it to you. All right, very next watch we have is a 126-300 green mint Datejust smooth bezel oyster bracelet. This watch is a new release for 2022, and I have to say I absolutely love that green mint dial. Kind of gives you the same green color from the Date 840 rose gold green olive Date 8. It's a little less olive, more minty, but yeah, it is very beautiful to say the least. And I really say in this configuration, that green mint dial really comes to life. It pops through more. You can get them in a 36, a 41, or a 41. They come with the, all the Datejust variations that you could imagine. So you got the fluted bezel, the smooth, the oyster, the jubilee, so on. Lovely watch. I know this watch came in as brand new, so we're gonna check that out. It's a little dirty and dusty, but we'll, what can we say? A couple of hairlines here and there from handling. One thing I hate about Datejust is they are absolutely constantly showing scratches and scuffs just simply from touching them, not even from wearing them. They just get covered in nastiness just from people touching that high polished part. So this watch right now, current market value is anywhere between $11,000 to $12,000 for this particular setup, but they can go up to about $14,000 to $15,000 for the Jubilee White Gold version. You can find this one on the website as well. We do have another version as well. I believe it's a 36 Jubilee Smooth. Very next watch, this is the 116-900 Air-King, which is my favorite configuration of the two that are out. I don't like the crown guard version. I'm just gonna say that. I think it's goofy looking. It's an awkward crown guard on a watch that doesn't necessarily even need it. It's really designed as a pilot's watch with the gauges of the airplanes used as inspiration. As you can see, everything is numerically listed out. So you have the 5, the 10, then the 369 marker integrated with that design factor. So it's a really, really cool watch. Very simple, basic, good daily wear. I mean, you can't really knock this watch too much. I do like that this is the only Rolex that you can buy that has what I call the commercial. I call it the commercial dial because it uses the green Rolex and gold crown, which is what you see at the store. Anytime you think Rolex and you go see it you see a retailer, they have the same famous gold crown with the green text, and this is the only watch that uses that. Let me take that back. I call this the retail dial. If I ever own one of these, I don't want crown guards. So obviously this is a pre-owned watch. They removed the bracelet, put it on that green strap. What do you guys think of that green strap? Would Rolex ever make a green oyster flex strap? That would be very interesting. Let me know in the comments below. Yep, definitely used. What can you say? Glass looks actually really, really good. Glass is like almost new. I mean, that is really, really good. There's only one little scratch on it. There's more wear on the head than there is on the clasp. That's kind of interesting. I don't really see that too often, but it's there. That is it, guys, for the segment. I hope you guys appreciated that. Let me know in the comments what you thought of these watches. Anything stuck out in particular, let me know. Also, they're all for sale, so if you see anything interesting, please message me direct. I'll be happy to help you guys out.